Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of Advertising the Apocalypse with me, Sim Kern, and
me, Saffana.
my co-host. Saffana is a former marketing professional, current copywriter, brilliant person about words and critical consumption of media generally. Content creator, I think. Are you owning that label these days?
Listen, I'm just about here living life. I don't know what I am anymore. Pressing buttons on the internet professionally is probably what I'd say.
And I am an author and a journalist and a former high school rhetoric teacher. And we're going to talk about the words that elites are using to sell you your own doom and death and destruction. And I've been hearing a lot of buzz lately about people not wanting us to use the word elites anymore.
Was that true?
Speaking of words, yeah, I've seen a couple posts on it. I saw one today that was like, we should call them the parasite class or something instead of elites, which I'm like, that's a lot of syllables.
Yeah.
But it is evocative, you know.
Bring back bourgeoisie. That's what they're saying.
Bourgeoisie. I mean, elite is easier. Bourgeoisie was a terrible one because that's a lot of vowels in a row. Horrible for
hard to spell too.
Hard to spell.
I'm going to tell people who aren't here to.
Elites, I think the reason I like elites, I do like that it's short and punchy. And I think I like it because it's so vague, but I think the phenomenon of eliteness applies in a lot of different contexts. So you just say rich people, like people could be elites and behave like elites, even if they're not rich, like in the book Elite Capture, that was the book that really got me to start using the word elite a lot. They talk about how like your boss, like your manager at Taco Bell in the context of that job is an elite because he's going to engage in union busting activities, right? If you tried to unionize your Taco Bell. But in the context of like the global society, he's, not a rich person or anything. So you can still be an elite in a certain context without necessarily being rich. That's why I think we need a term like that. But people think elite means like, good or fancy or luxury or whatever. So maybe they want to remove the positive association.
I think it's good looking out, but I don't know if it'll catch on because I don't know if that's the hill I want to die on.
No,
it's really the truth. I don't know. Like
the balance between like, yes, with rhetoric, we need to be like really careful about the words we use and words matter. And when we spend like so much time endlessly debating and switching up which words we lose, then we lose people because they can't keep up. They can't keep up.
Yeah. I think this is on a need to know basis, like those kind of conversations. And then also I think the words that catch on speak for themselves. Like there's a reason that some of them kind of go out of fashion. It's like the ones that click are the ones that stick. So let's see what happens. It's not the hill that I'm gonna fight on, but potentially go off 100%. I'm excited to see what people
come up with. I don't think parasite class is it, but if we can come up with something shorter and punchier, maybe.
I'm down.
Yeah,
absolutely down.
Okay, so we have two big topics to talk about today. I'm freshly back from ArabCon 2025, which took place in Dearborn, Michigan. And it was a very interesting experience. I met a lot of people who you recognize from the pro-Palestine, Free Palestine internet space. There were a lot of influencers there. I met some scholars, I met some lawyers and a lot of people working in humanitarian rights and authors. And so I have some insights to talk about that, some things to bring to you. And then Saffana, you want to share what you're going to lead us in on?
We're going to talk about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
We're not really going to talk about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk doesn't matter. We're going to talk about everything we can learn from Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. Saying that'll get you canceled in the U.S., Saffana. If you had a late night talk show and you said,
"What? It doesn't matter."
You said Charlie Kirk doesn't matter. That'd be
it's not as in it doesn't matter. As in that he is not the matter. Yeah, right. He's not
what we're really talking about.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, he is
an example.
He is the vehicle. He is the vehicle upon which we will ride almost use to get to the information that we need. Because he's passed on now, but in his absence, we have so much to learn. There's so much to learn, both from history, in present day, and all of this. I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited for it too. And I think maybe we should start with you, since I think we usually start with me and my stuff. So let's start with your stuff today.
Oh, I don't mind. We're going to go straight for the jugular.
I think so. Yeah. Why bury the lead? You're the one that told me.
Yeah, never bury the lead. Lead with the lead. So I think I'll put it in story, shall we? Because that's the way most things land well in our minds. So to contextualize this gentleman, he was here on Earth for 31 years with us, did a whole bunch of stuff, and people have varying opinions on the effectiveness, etc., of his impact. And then recently he died. And the aftermath of this is, and the way that it's being reported, is the thing that I think we should all learn from. Now, I'm going to tell you, actually, like in the most honesty, what I thought I was going to talk about, and then after some conversations, what I would actually like to say. So what I really wanted, what I thought we were going to talk about was how the use of nouns around him is extremely interesting. And what I mean by a noun is just a word to describe a thing. It's just a thing. It can be an abstract noun like loyalty, like you cannot hold a loyalty, or it can be something like a chair, like a real noun. And nouns, a lot of the times, one of the categories of nouns is like a label. And I was really interested for a while in the way that we label this gentleman. And I really wanted to use it as a demonstration to be like, especially when someone is passed, and especially when we're talking about history, what we have is not their word, but it's how everyone else is describing them. And so what I was really interested in was the way that there is a selection process of nouns. There's only so many nouns you can use. So for example, here we had it where you were said, Saffana, are you a content creator? And to a certain extent, some may perceive me as that. That is a reality. That is a version of reality, right? But we all have this thing of people go, what do you do? What's your job? And then you kind of go, I am and you try and fill it in. Rather than say, I do some marketing, you want to say, I am a marketer. The thing that I was really looking at is like, what is the noun that people are going to use for this gentleman?
Yeah.
So then I was looking at all of the ways that he was being explained. And I shared a few things. And one of them was, I just want everyone to look at the trajectory that they will use, right? So they will start off by saying, he was a activist, he was a blah, 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 he was a boss, he was a CEO. And then eventually that goes to, he was a loving father, he was a husband. And eventually that will go to, he was a hero, he was a like American hero. And there was a thing that I shared with you where it was just like, he was I think they called him the generation's greatest, something like that. And that was by Fox News.
The slides?
Yeah. There was, and this was around the time that he passed. So there was one, I want to talk about this at the end, right? But there's another one. So this one I want to hold till the end. This is another one that I want to go to. Almost, I think I sent them in reverse order. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah. I really did. We want to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry, okay. Sim. It's my fault.
No worries.
Yeah, so this is where they called him the generation's greatest very soon after the incident where he was shot. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting use of noun. And my hunch was, we're just going to slowly go through these nouns, and eventually we will end up with a version of almost like a historic symbol, like and that was what they were setting up for, by the way. So that was just like a breakdown of the rhetoric around him, right? And you could see this from the UK as well, which I think is the next slide, where I was really interested. Yeah, they called him an icon, and I was like, how interesting that the UK would call him, even though it's MAGA. Like, an icon is a very interesting word. This, by the way, is a headline from Sky in the UK. The one before it was from Fox, and I could believe that they would say that he's the generation's greatest. But for Sky to pick this one, I was like, oh, that's a really interesting. It's just a really interesting way to frame a gentleman by saying unequivocally he was an icon. To make sense? Like, usually that's a thing we reserve for celebrities, where you don't really have an opinion on. They're not a hugely divisive personality. Whereas I perceived him to be a divisive personality. This is not, again, nothing to do with him and his whatevers. But as time went on, I just started, yes, being like, okay, this is what's happening. And by the way, like, spoiler alert, yes, that is exactly the trajectory that things were taken in, right? So if we go to the next one, this is how someone described him. And I wanted to bring this up because this is one person's events of Charlie. This is one person's rendition of the reality, and this is their reality. And by that, I mean, this is their subjective reality of the same gentleman, where they called him a mentor, a friend, a hero, la da da, all of this stuff. And then you go, okay, that is an interpretation. No matter what I think, that is an interpretation. And I have to take it as face value of this gentleman who, this is what happened after this guy passed. And you go, okay, fine. So to that end, we go, there are different versions of reality of this person. And as a consumer of media, you, me, Sim, we must all do our due diligence to try and understand what is the benefit of someone telling me this story in this way, right? Because that's what media literacy is. Because we understand implicitly that behind every story, there is usually some kind of narrative that we are supposed to take in that is going to usually, at this point, really, we understand, benefit someone. And if we want to call them elites, if you want to call them bourgeoisie, if you want to call them the parasite class, whatever, they own the media, they shape the narrative, and they want me to believe the reality in a certain way. Okay, cool. So we then see the trajectory of which I spoke. So let's go to the next one. And we go, has Charlie Kirk become a MAGA martyr? And again, what's interesting about this is Sky News. And the reason that's interesting is because Sky News is here in the UK. So for you to tell me this information like this in the UK, I'm like, oh, you want me to feel something. And really and truly, that's what that is. So I'm now going, oh, you want to trigger my feelings. And it's not that you want me to perceive in a specific way. You want me to be so triggered. Because that word in this climate is very loaded.
Yeah.
Extremely loaded. Okay.
And just speaking from a journalism background and thinking about a media editor perspective, when you ask a question as a headline, you want everyone to assume the answer to that question is yes, right? So, but you're afraid, but you want the plausible deniability of like, oh, we're gonna add a little nuance. We're gonna mention that there's another way of seeing it. But this headline might as well be, for the effect that it has on readers, the headline might as well be Charlie Kirk has become a MAGA martyr. Like that's how the impact lands. You're just giving yourself a little wiggle room to pretend like you're not being quite so like editorial in your journalism.
100%. And then you go, how come they're doing this?
No,
but that's a question that you have to ask. Yeah. And so I want anyone who's like gonna watch this now, in the future, whatever, as you're reading stuff, just before you feel anything, and I really want to be because this is where I think what I wanted to say before was like, they're gonna do this, but we have to go one step after this, because I know if we go to the next one, let's go to the next one and just be like, okay, remember again, and I don't want to toot my horn. I don't want to toot my horn. But literally when this happened, I was like, they're making this version of reality that we didn't experience. And this is a picture that looks a lot like a certain picture that we all know of a certain gentleman who died in this. We get that. So this is making us fill in the blanks of a picture in black and white. They could have used the color version, but why would they when they want to trigger our imagination?
Yeah.
And we're setting this gentleman up to be like this. Now, okay. So lovely, ding, ding, ding. Saffana was on the money. But then I conversed with my siblings. And then they said, how come you're going to talk about this gentleman? To which I said, sorry to jump the gun again and repeat what I said that might get me cancelled, is I was like, oh, this gentleman actually to me doesn't matter. No offense to him, but to me, he does not matter. But the interesting thing is the narrative constructed around him. I think we have a lot to learn from the way narratives are constructed around him. Then my two siblings, who don't work in media, they are hugely successful in their own right. They said, people will be tuning in to see how you are going to articulate how you do not like him. And I said, what? I was like, what? No. We're teaching media literacy. I believe these people are media literate enough to not create a opinion on a gentleman they have not met. They were like, no. People are going to tune in and they expect you and your co-host to say unequivocally, we are against. And I was just like, how interesting. To me, and I don't, again, I'm not going to put words in people's mouths, right? So Sim, feel free to negate. But in a world where we here in this call are like, we're going to teach you media literacy and we're going to teach you how people make you believe and think things. Let's all be adults about this. From the dawn of time until now, we know the phrase divide and conquer. The easiest way to conquer a place, a country, a village, even a classroom, you divide and then you conquer. The way that you would do this is you would come up with an ideology, a mentality, and anything. And you would go, those people believe the opposite to you, therefore you are enemies. It's as simple as that. Now, what I am realizing now in them making this man this thing is that, to me, if I was to analyze this is yet another tool of division. So the major lesson to learn from this, for me specifically, is that if my siblings are true, and I want everyone in the call to reflect, if they are true in their analysis, that you here are listening, you are waiting for me, and maybe my co-host, wherever you are, to say unequivocally, absolutely no to this gentleman, you yourself have fallen for the traps that we are telling you to look out for. In my opinion, you yourself have drunk the Kool-Aid of division and you've gone, whatever this man was on, I don't like it, and I'm with everyone he's against, and I'm against everyone he's with, and therefore this is how it. Because if you're going to do that, I don't know. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to leave him to talk. But yeah, this is where I am on it.
Dude, I've been thinking a lot about binary cultural identity formation because I'm reading this book. It's like just in the next room, but I'm not going to go grab it. It's called The Dawn of Everything by David Graeber and David Wengrow, who are two anthropologists. David Graeber, the late great David Graeber, he was an anarchist. He was wonderful. He died of COVID. COVID took us from us when he was in his 40s. This is his last book. And it really is messing with me because I just read this chapter. It's one of these books that was like a bestseller, and I think everyone bought it and nobody's going to read it because it's really, really dense. I'm super fascinated in the topic, but it is very scholarly, and I'm having to force myself to read it.
I believe in you, Sim.
I know, and it's a book you have to read with a pen and an underliner and everything, but it's about how diverse ways that we organized ourselves economically and politically have been throughout history, including it's looking at a lot of archaeology, right? So it's a lot of prehistory, this narrative, this incredibly simplistic narrative that's pushed in Yuval Noah Harari's book, Sapiens, this idea we have that as soon as garbage. As soon as agriculture appears, oppression is inevitable. Capitalism is inevitable. Planting crops is what made us become oppressors. This is a lot of people think like this, and this book really exposes how incredibly wrong that is and how racist that is. It's a colonial projection of this, we are at us white Europeans are at a further stage of advancement than all these indigenous people. And really the ways indigenous people have organized themselves is really, really fascinating and really, really diverse. So, but this one chapter just kind of blew up so many of my preconceptions about things. And so there were two major cultural groups on the West Coast of the United States. Okay. In California and South was one group. And then the other group was up through Canada, the Pacific Northwest, and then up through Canada. So those guys up there had that really beautiful, they had so much art that was the beautiful canoe paintings and paintings of all the animals and the masks and the totem poles. It's some of the most iconic indigenous art to this continent. So they were really all about art. That's cool. They were also really about slavery. Less cool. 25% of their population was enslaved. Most of their slaves they were getting from like raiding the Californians further south. And these two cultural groups developed totally binary like everything. So like the art of the North was very like elaborate and big, and they had a big material culture. In the South, in California, the art was very minimal. It was like design, like geometric designs on baskets. And their beauty standards were opposite. In the North, their primary food was salmon, and they needed like this pool of slave labor to quickly process massive hauls of salmon when the salmon was running. And so they would have these grease feasts where they would like eat grease from the salmon and like and the other fish, the candlefish, the grease fish. And so their body, like their beauty standard was like large, fat bodies was beautiful. Down south, it was like thin bodies are beautiful. In the North, they inherited wealth through sacred objects, that there was one of a kind, and they inherited down family lines. So they had like nobility, and they had like a lot of class stratification because, and there was no movement because you had to inherit these sacred objects for wealth. In the South, they had the closest thing in, the First Nations of North America to money, because it was democratizing. They didn't believe in inheriting anything. They had like shells, that they traded like currency, but they would burn it all when someone died because they believed like inheriting wealth was like the worst thing. Nice. And their beauty standards were like to be thin, right? There was salmon in California, but they didn't eat salmon. They ate acorns, was like their like tree nuts was like their staple food because it's raid proof. Because if you steal a bunch of acorns, you still have to do the labor of processing it and cooking it right before you eat it. So it's like a food you could store that no one wants to steal. So in some way, so the northern community was like artistic and like very they had this art culture, but they had slavery, which was not so great. The southern culture was actually more like capitalism, but they were like very anti-slavery. So it really kind of like blows up like our conceptions of like, the Garden of Eden, the Rousseau's idea of like the noble savage, and like the everyone was just like a forager. These were like really complex societies, but they were so binary, and they had like allegories, sort of shaming what one culture valued in the North. The South would have like allegories and mythologies, like shaming those cultural identity formations, and vice versa. And so, and so like the author's argument is like many like archaeologists, they look at like cultural identity formation and they say like, oh, well, there was a river here, so that's why they ate fish, and oh, there was this, and the mountain was here, and so that's why they did that. But sometimes cultural identities form just because we don't want to be like them. Whatever they're doing, we want to do the opposite. And this was something happening clearly on the West Coast of the United States 1,000 years before European colonizers came, So there's something that's just sort of like in us.
Yeah.
Has this tendency in certain circumstances to be like, whatever you're doing, we're going to do the opposite.
Out of principle.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about that is the idea of progress. To me, so when you say things like this, I would think then, if I were to hear this, I would go, then my idea of progressive trains of thought is to say, the ideal way to do social cohesion in the long term is actually how we do progress. I'm actually gonna have to mute myself because I've got a visitor.
Okay,
and I'll see you guys very soon.
I'll do some chatting.
Thanks.
Yeah. So anyways, I thought that was just a really interesting example and something I've been sitting with. Oh, thank you so much, Amanda. This is the 6th time we've done it, because Saffana and I just really enjoy talking to each other. Yeah. I don't want to start talking about ArabCon and like switch to a totally different topic, since I think Saffana will be back with us shortly. But yeah.
Sorry about that.
No
also
worries.
not sorry because I've got a kid in it, so we're gonna do.
Yeah, no, absolutely understand 100%.
But yeah, so this is what I was saying about progress. Sorry, real quick. Is that it's interesting to me that progress to us is deemed as like how, I don't know, technological progress. I think that's the idea of progress in the world that we live in. But actually, what I would have deemed as progress from that perspective then is, okay, then how can we do not that? Like, what would it take for people to not, out of literal, because to us now, 1,000 years later, we could be like, oh, but both body types are equally beautiful. Like, why would you, out of spite, eat lard or whatever?
Yeah.
So to me, it would seem logical to then go, surely social cohesion is progressive in its essence, But the thing that again we are like reinventing, I think a lot of the times, like when I'm reading this, is like, I think there are many well-intentioned humans who will read something on the internet and see something, and then they will say the good thing to do is be against this. And what that they will infer then means, because culturally this is what it's meaning now, is because the good thing to be is against this, necessarily a person who is for this is bad. And that then makes a very dangerous dichotomy of existence, where it stops what could have been actual social cohesion and a way for us to prosper together and learn from each other and connect and and go, okay, well, let's actually discuss this and hash this out. And I don't mean like invite in harmful things that are directly going to harm you as a human. We don't mean invite in violence. Yeah. What we mean is there is, before this happens, many stages that we can use to actually create some kind of conversation. And I think the media, if we're reading it now in a way with some discernment, it is encouraging us to nip any conversation in the bud. Yeah. And I think this is a learning point for all of us. So if you are watching this sometime in the future, you're going, I expected her to be like, ugh, what an awful gentleman.
Yeah.
I think just check yourself. I genuinely just think check yourself and see how susceptible you have become to the messaging of like, we must take a stance that is polarizing. Like, I just think check yourself.
I didn't want to talk about this on the internet genuinely because it's not a hill I wanted to die on, but it's so relevant. So I've been thinking a lot lately about this with Tylenol.
Tylenol is a painkiller?
Tylenol is a painkiller. Did you hear what Trump said about Tylenol? So Trump's RFK Jr., who's like the health and human secretary now, who's like the anti-vaxxer. Yes. So he had a press conference this week where he was like, I'm going to tell everybody what causes autism. And he said, it's Tylenol. Tylenol causes autism. Tylenol does not cause autism. Okay. I'm going to get my disclaimers out of the way. But I happen to have a friend who's a lawyer who's suing Johnson & Johnson over labeling of Tylenol. Because Johnson & Johnson has labeled Tylenol, has fought for years for stronger labeling on Tylenol in the US that's on par with how the UK and the EU label Tylenol. So I'm not saying that Tylenol causes autism, but there were studies that were concerning enough in the EU and the UK for them to just put a label on Tylenol saying pregnant women should take the minimum required dose for the shortest length of time possible. Because there's a problem with Tylenol is paracetamol for
people. Thank you so much, Amanda.
The other thing is like doses. So I just read, she got me to read this book that's like a deep dive on Johnson & Johnson. Has a lot of like horrible things. They've killed so many hundreds of thousands of people over the years because of lying and knowing that their products were killing people and selling them anyways to make money, right? And so like I learned from this book, what I didn't know is like Tylenol is like way more toxic to your liver than like ibuprofen and these NSAIDs. Like when you compare overdose, there's like a pretty comparable number of overdoses on ibuprofen and Tylenol. But if you overdose on ibuprofen, you're almost always going to be fine. Like it is like a tiny percentage of people will die. You're probably going to be fine. If you overdose on Tylenol, it's very, very possible you're going to have liver failure and die or need a liver transplant immediately. And there's even been people who just like, they have a couple drinks of alcohol and they take a Tylenol for the hangover, which is something I've been doing my whole life, and they just go into liver failure. So it's like, and again, that's labeling y'all have in the EU and the UK that we don't have in the US because Johnson & Johnson has fought against it. So I just happen to have this one little insight into like, oh, maybe Tylenol, maybe there's some things about, maybe we should just have a stronger label. I'm not saying it causes autism, but just like, maybe we should like tell people that like, don't drink and take Tylenol. But you can't have that conversation right now, because now it's like, you just look on Twitter and like for the past week, it's like Tylenol is now like a symbol of the left. And it's like, I'm a pregnant person and I'm proudly taking my Tylenol because fuck them, you know, and MAGA just wants, you know, pregnant people to suffer. And there's all of that, but like, it's impossible to have a nuanced conversation. Like it just became Tylenol is now, and I feel so bad for my friend because my friend is a leftist. My friend is absolutely a leftist person, and her entire job right now is suing Tylenol. So like, she's just sitting there like, ugh, you know, and she's like friends with all these doctors and these expert witnesses and things. And yeah, she's in a tough spot. But like, you can't have that conversation online. I'm not going to make a video about it these days because it's such a cultural flashpoint right now that people can't even hear it, because it's like, that's gotten added to the pile of symbols that are our identities that are either blue or red. And it's like, you know, California, Canada. It's like, we're these people, we take Tylenol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what being a Democrat in the US is, or a Republican. It's like a pile of those symbols. And I do think like we are not going to make much progress towards fixing things until people step away from that like pile and say, and are willing to think like maybe there's stuff besides this pile that's okay, you know?
So this is the word binary is the real thing here, and I think this is the thing that I remember on like our second or third episode, where it was like the fallacy that we can all fall into a binary when we've all existed in a beautifully nuanced, even in your household, you do not agree on these things. So the fallacy that we can all be put into a binary and be like, whatever, man, like this binary of left and right that is like, it's across all nations. And I think like, and I'm willing to say this like in the UK as well, right? Where it's actually now we have a different newcomer, which is slightly more poisonous. But this thing of like, I have to be in this, it's almost like a marriage, like till death do us part. I agree with everything that this party does without allowing room for nuance is a, it's an odd indoctrination that I think we would all value from just assessing. Just assess. And also just assess the motives of a person who is very eager to put you in a bucket. Because again, as like a person who reads media, who has been producing media for a long time, these buckets do not serve you, bucket liver inner. They don't. They serve the other person. So if someone is trying really hard to push you in a bucket, just question their motives. Like I would just, and if someone's triggering you away from another bucket, it literally by way of triggering. Because now I don't think it's like, oh, join our bucket, we're here to help everyone. I think it's like, how dare you be a part of that bucket? Like, which is again, is a very, you must unpick your feelings as you're reading this stuff and also encourage others to do. Even the idea of the label of leftist, right, left, liberal, these have begun to be weaponized in a way that stops what could have been social cohesion. And again, in your beautiful analogy of 1,000 years ago, this tribe used to eat the fat of salmon almost out of spite. The others would eat the acorn. Like, what have you learned? What do you deem as progress if you are not willing to do the due diligence in yourself and catch your feelings before someone else catches them for you and sweeps you in a bucket that you didn't even want to be in? I would just recommend.
Nice to have some salmon with acorn bread on the side. You get some fiber. I mean, maybe everyone would have had like a better time in their tummy.
For real, what a feast.
A little balance.
Yeah. Consider this, and consider what happens if you blend those two together. You go, oh, you did this, oh, we did this, slightly different, but okay, we don't need to agree on everything, but where can we agree? And then begin your social, because again, us looking at this 1,000 years later, we go, obviously, you silly Billy, that's what you should have done. But you can't do that, obviously, silly Billy, and then go, oh, I wonder what she thought of this man. I hope she doesn't think something different to me, because then I don't like her. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You haven't exercised some discernment, is what I would just highly recommend it, and just figure it out. Because again, I think one of the things I considered, I don't know if you did this as a rhetoric teacher, but you go, I'm going to teach you this. And I know that it will land in your ears as this is something someone else should do. I never get caught out. And that is the danger of this. Like, if you're sitting there and at no point are you uncomfortable when we're talking about media literacy, this goes for me too, then you're not doing the work. If at no point you've unpicked a train of thought, you person watching this, if at no point you've thought, oh, I need to unlearn that. Oh, didn't catch that. Oh, they almost got me with that. Oh, if you've all gone, yeah, that's what they need to do over there, those bad doers, you fall for it. They've got you.
Okay, I can talk about ArabCon now, but stay on this exact same topic.
Because
okay, this is going to be such a unified episode. Oh my God, it's amazing. Okay,
so excited.
So the thing that I want to talk about is the biggest like controversy that came up at ArabCon, both about me and at the main event of the night, which was Mehdi Hassan did his podcast like live on stage. And so the thing about me was like, I was noticing the first day that I was at ArabCon, I got tagged in a number of posts that was like resurging with like all the greatest hits of like the sim smear campaign. So it was like, someone posted something about like, why are you platforming this white grifter who condemns the resistance? This is something that I get a lot. And so this theme of like, why do you condemn the resistance came up, and there was I think a desire by some people to sort neatly into categories people in the Free Palestine movement who condemn the resistance versus people who don't condemn the resistance. Nobody, I think, is condemning resistance actually, but it was like certain people are trying to sort people in the Palestine speaking space, people that were speakers at ArabCon, into like good or bad, based or grifter, based on whether or not Hamas has your full-throated endorsement for everything they've ever done, or not. And it's sort of like a litmus test. So what happened to me, I was getting like tagged in some of these posts, and I was like, why is all of this like coming up again all of a sudden? And then I was like, oh, right, it's because I'm at ArabCon, and Jewish Arab solidarity is very threatening to certain people, namely Zionists, but also sometimes people who aren't Zionists. There are people who are within, the Free Palestine movement or within the Arab community who also don't want Jewish Arab solidarity. That's their ideology. And so these people, like my presence there was like triggering all of this stuff to come up again. So what I said in my book ended up being very similar. And then what happened when Mehdi Hassan was on stage doing his podcast, he did a little bit with the comic Bassem Youssef. What's his last name? Bassem, I can't remember. Yeah, Bassem Youssef, right? The Egyptian comic guy. Yeah. And so they did their podcast, and then they had a Q&A at the end. And so Mo Hams came up, who actually, by the way, is very lovely. I was at a hookah bar with Mo till like 2 a.m. He's like so sweet. He's so angry on like camera, but he's like a really nice guy. But he did his confrontational thing, and he went up.
Who's Mo Hams?
Oh, Mo Hams. He's like a Palestine influencer, but he got kicked off of, I think, TikTok and Instagram. Because he's very pro-resistance and like and has said some things that were like, that did get you kicked off. So he came up, and I think he was actually very respectful. And the question was like, well, within his bounds. And he was like, Mehdi, I appreciate you for this and this and this. And I think you've done a lot. But like, why do you condemn the resistance sometimes and condemn October 7th before saying stuff? And Mehdi actually said, I don't think I do that. I don't think I do that, but like I do, I support the right of occupied people to resist. And what Mehdi said, by the way, is very similar to what I say in Genocide Bad. I support the right of occupied people to resist occupation, even, violently. But also like I'm against war crimes and, the targeting of civilians. And then he did lose me later on because he said I would love to debate Benjamin Netanyahu, which is a separate issue about platforming. But he's thinking he can like intellectually destroy Netanyahu, and I don't agree that that's what would happen there. But that's like a separate issue. So I don't agree with Mehdi.
It's such a commendation to give him that you could an intellect.
Yeah,
like you can intellectually destroy him. Implicitly says that there's intellect behind that. Like that's so.
And like Netanyahu's audience watching that debate wouldn't be living in a completely different reality where nothing Mehdi Hassan said.
There's no intellect. There's no intellect in that.
And you're not even really speaking the same language. But then someone else came up and like piggybacked off Mo's question and was like, but there are no civilians in Israel. And this is where I wanted to just talk and just correct something that's not true and gets repeated a lot in the Free Palestine space, which is that everyone in Israel has served in the IOF. There's no such thing as civilians. Now, you and I have talked about on here before in an earlier episode about how we think it's not a great idea to use the word terrorists against using the word terrorist like against Israel and saying that Israel is the real terrorist, because you're still using their framing, a dehumanizing framing, and a framing that's like you're having the discussion on their terms, right? Well, to say that like there's a whole entire population where there are no civilians, where nobody's a civilian, that's their framing. That's a genocidal framing. And so I just want to correct this, okay? Because it's not true. And so someone said, and I saw comments and I saw posts today on Instagram. I got on Instagram because Mo posted this video of him confronting Mehdi, and then people are responding to it. And everyone's saying 90% of civilians are in the IDF. I'm not defending Israel. I'm not defending Zionism, but let's get the facts right. That matters, right? So this is from the Jerusalem Post, right-wing Israeli paper, The Myth of Compulsory Military Service in Israel, okay? It's not 90%. It's 30% of the population that have served in the military. Arab Israelis are not allowed, for the most part, to serve in the military. The ultra-Orthodox don't serve in the military. Late in recent years, less than 50% of young, eligible Jewish people are agreeing to the draft and are going. And I think that's fallen even further in the last 2 years from when this was written. So it ends up being, in reality, 35% of the eligible Israeli population is serving. That's not including all the expats who moved to Israel. And again, I'm not saying these people are innocent. If you're from any other country and you've immigrated and made Aliyah to Israel after the age of military service, these people aren't serving in the IDF. And children, there are children in Israel. Can we agree that children are civilians? And, and there were children that were killed by Hamas and abducted by Hamas on October 7th. So like this litmus test of trying to so first of all, get facts right. It's not 90% of the Israeli population have served in the military. Okay. It's less than 30%. I couldn't find the exact number because they don't like to publish that. I was looking, but it's less than 30%. It's 35% of the eligible population. And so this, and again, we got to think about, if you're trying to build a world where like there's more respect for life and where genocide is never tolerated, you can't go saying there's no such thing as a civilian in a country of millions of people. I think we got to get that right. But I think that's part of this like desire to create a binary even within the Free Palestine movement, people are we're like, why are we trying to subdivide ourselves further? You know?
Yeah. I think this is also where you need to draw a much clearer line between the ideology that makes it different and those who are able to enact the ideology. So, so for example, there'll be lots of people who are pro-Palestine, but not everyone will go to a march.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say. So the ideology is, and that's not to say that only those who are at the march are pro-Palestine, right? Mm-hmm. So there are people who are unable to enact their will. So then you go, because again, we must contextualize the feelings that people have and the way that they're expressing it. So where I definitely agree is like, okay, but there are still children. There are people who may not have the means to leave, even if they do not agree with the way that this country existed. But there are also definitely, I was on a podcast recently and my memory fails me, but I think it was like more than 30%, maybe 50, I can't remember. It was a crazy number of people within Israel who, when asked, they were like, yeah, don't care about Palestine, like we can get rid of all of them. And that's like a 30% of people who, they may not be in the IOF, IDF, whatever you want to call them. They may not be part of it, but they are of that opinion that this is correct. So even if they cannot serve, they still would do the damage, right? They're still like for it. So then this is where you go, okay, if you were to take that mentality, then at what point do we go, you're not innocent, you're not an innocent bystander, right? And then this is where we have to then go, how would I want to be treated? If I didn't enact anything, it's just a train of thought that I have in my mind, how do I want to be treated? And so you have to give that grace, right? So like, I didn't do anything, but I still think this thing. What goes against all of this is that only one of those trains of thought is genocidal. Like, what I mean by that is the pro-Palestine movement in its essence is like, can we not? Like that's, and so you're going against, can we not? Mm-hmm. And then you're going in some of these, can we not? They go, absolutely everyone who is doing this should stop. And sometimes it's expressed as it's civilians, but that's their vibe, right? Of like everyone who is here is wanting to enact this evil. Mm-hmm. I think that then it gets wishy-washy with the resistance, but I want to at least give enough nuance and allow people to create enough nuance in their mind to understand that Israel, yes, is a place, and maybe not everyone agrees with what is happening, but not everyone who is enacting are the only people who are agreeing with this. So then you have to kind of, it's all an amalgamation, right? So the binary is never helpful, but that's not to say that once you remove the binary, then you go, only don't worry about it. Like it's only those people that you have to actually add nuance. I think so. It's, hold on. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just,
I'm not defending the Israeli people.
I think this word civilian is dangerous. I think that's what's dangerous.
It's saying that no one's a civilian. That
yes.
Saying that no one's a civilian in a country. Let's just talk about children.
They have babies.
There's babies. Yeah. There's 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds there. And you're saying no one's a civilian? That's what Israel says. You're using their language, you're using their framework, and that is inherently a genocidal idea. That there can be a city where no one's a civilian.
Right? That's not justice.
No.
So like again, you have to go for what is your aim. If it is justice, then you must enact justice. But if it is pure like just
revenge,
then again it's I agree with you. But again, if you want justice, seek justice. Don't seek violence. You must task yourself with really what is it that you are going for, because if you are trying, and by the way, if we're being frank, I don't know what will class as justice here. So as a person of faith, I just have to accept that there will be no justice served. Like sometimes when you see the stuff coming out of it, you're like, bro, there is nothing that I will believe is justice in this world. If that was my faith, like we're not sure of the things that replay in our minds as we like feed our babies food. Do you know what I mean? Like us who have the privilege of doing that, you will think 1,500 times about a mother who doesn't even have that child to feed anymore. Should they even have like, there's so much stuff that you go, and if that was taken away from me in any way, shape or form, there is nothing that I would deem as justice in this world. So again, and this is from, do you see what I mean? So this is even hypothetical. So again, you go back to, if what you want is justice, you are trying to go back to the person who suffered this and then go, what is justice to you? And then enact from there. But otherwise, I don't know.
I think there's a really interesting essay. Where is it? Can I grab it real quick? I don't know. By Kai Cheng Tom in her book, I Hope We Choose Love, which is like a book on essays about activism, where she's actually like, I don't really like the word justice because it's like too carceral almost. Oh well, I can't get it and quote it right away.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm trying to say is like justice, like justice, this idea of like holding people responsible is going to be it's not possible.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Bringing back a single child that was murdered. There's no making that right.
Yeah.
I think that what's important, I think it's important, the position that I take, genocide bad, the position Mehdi's taking, right? Where you do draw lines about what is and isn't acceptable forms of resistance is important, because what has been successful about the Free Palestine movement, I think what has been most successful over the past few years, is that it is a moral appeal. We don't have billions of dollars in propaganda on our side. We don't have any, powerful state governments on our side pushing our message. What we have is a very strong appeal to morality, a morality that feels true to hundreds of millions of people across the world. And so, if you're not morally consistent, if you're like, well, we want Palestinians to be treated morally, but in the pursuit of that, we're going to be doing things that look also very violent and immoral towards other people, like then you're going to lose a lot of people. Because, and especially if you know the entire history of Palestine, the amount that has been lost, the amount of suffering that has been, endured over generations, then maybe you get to a place where you think, well, anything to stop this is acceptable. Any act to try to defy this is allowed. But most people in the world you're going to lose a lot of them. They're not going to come along with you. And so even just strategically, even if it's not moral, strategically keeping a certain amount of moral consistency, I think, saying things like genocide bad, war crimes bad, killing children bad, period. No caveats, no exceptions. Like that one bad, is like, I think, strategically beneficial. And also, to me, morally consistent.
Yeah. And also, I just want, on the point of moral consistency, I do want to say, like, we've seen with, let's say, like the gentleman who led the recent, should we say, stabilization of Syria, maybe, after what has happened. He is hugely respected for his moral consistency. Like, and the thing that we are seeing is that if you are morally consistent, first of all, credit where credit is due, because if you do not act out of rage, that is very impressive. Like, just facts is facts, right? Like, we all have feelings, and to not enact, even in a subtle argument, in a simple argument, I'm not even talking where everything's been taken away from you, and so you go, why not, right? I'm talking like just in a regular schmegular, I've been fired from work, so I'm going to steal all the Sharpies, right? I'm not talking from experience there. I'm just saying. Just saying, hypothetically, if you were let go from work and you take all the Sharpies, it's not morally consistent. Okay. But to act in that way is difficult. And but you have to then just believe that that is its own reward. If you don't, if you're not spiritual or religious like that, you have to believe that that's its own reward, and that is an extremely high standard to hold yourself to, especially in the face of your the person who you're up against. For a Fendi fact that they do not hold themselves to anything similar to that standard. So it is not just difficult in one itself, in a vacuum. It becomes almost impossible in the face of that much injustice.
Yeah.
So should we say, yes, we're going to stand on right and we're going to be morally consistent and like credit where credit is due, that is what seems like an impossible mission, in my opinion. Like, I'm just talking as a human, understanding this, looking at this, and I haven't even been wronged in that way. So if that is what we're expecting, then if they follow through with that level of ridiculous moral consistency, they are a level of human that we have to understand is beyond us. Because it's beyond me. I'll be very frank with you.
And that's why I think, again, like, and Mehdi said, I don't condemn the resistance. Like, I don't, and I also say in the book, I don't condemn Hamas. Like, I'm not, you can say something is a war crime and still be like, I don't condemn these people. Because, like, how could I know what it's like to be in their shoes? Like you said, I haven't lost what they've lost. I haven't endured what they've endured. But you can still be like, that, doing that, killing that kid, not okay. You know what I mean? Without, like, I'm not necessarily judging you and condemning you, but, like, you got to be like, killing kids is not okay.
Yeah.
But we don't have to agree on this. I mean, like, expecting occupied people's resistance to be totally, is this what you're saying? Like, expecting the resistance of occupied people to be totally morally pure is...
No, I think action, I think intention, actions, and outcome are, to think that it's a perfect arrow that goes through all of it is bogus. I think there will be an intention of, like, this is the way we're going to do this. If possible, that's the standard at which we want to uphold, and then go, but sometimes this, and we're going to do this to the best of our abilities, I think is a much more accurate way to just live and exist in life. Like, and again, I'm just basing that off of everything I've ever read in any battle, in any strategy, in any whatever, of like, this is the standard I hold myself to, this is the actions I'm going to do, and this is the way I'm going to do it. And then you go, okay, real life. And so with real life, you have to go, okay, even, and I say this because I bet you there are people who enacted, are for, are with, who go, I didn't act right there. Oh, so like, we're not going to be the only ones going, I wouldn't have done that. And then they go, I shouldn't have done that. Like, then you see what I mean? So you have to then, so like you're saying, and again, it's just nuance. Like, you can't expect it to be like, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And so I did it. Like, that's just not going to be the case. And so,
that's why, exactly. And that's why, but these conversations are important, right? And that's why what I don't think is good is to say, well, who cares what they did on October 7th? They can do whatever they want because there's no such thing as a civilian in Israel. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my point, is like, no, like, anyways, I'm not a general in Hamas. I don't like, I'm not in Al-Qassam. I'm not trying to be. I'm just gonna be consistent.
We can try again. Like, honestly, like, but I've always said the moral high ground has a very high tax bracket. Like, to really fully occupy it, if you're gonna be there with that chest, you need a soul worth that. And it's a lot. And we just have to have grace, I think, and nuance carries.
Yes, but I don't think that we need to be asking everybody who comes into, just as like when you go on a talk show, that's the mainstream media, and they're going to ask you, do you condemn Hamas? Like, we also need to not be interrogating everyone in our movement. Do you endorse Hamas and everything they've ever done and would never ever criticize them? You know what I mean? That's the binary. That's what I'm trying to say, is like that binary.
Yeah, break that. Nuance.
We can have different ideas about this.
Yeah. And also just like trust and believe that if like, again, it's just very difficult because we're not there. We can only be like, this is what I predict, but like, you're not there. You're not doing the thing. This is just your feels. Literally, it's just you're going off of feels and vibes. Like, so I don't even take people's word for it when they do respond. So I think it's a wild thing to, because again, what's the what do you say? What was the intention behind me asking you that question? Is it so I can bucket you, so I can go, let's if it's that, but if it's like, okay, let's talk about, well, we can find common ground, then I think that's just a much more productive way to exist as a human. Like, for me, in my thing, and maybe I'm wrong, but again, I would say I am not even skeptical of the question. I'm skeptical of the intention behind the question, because again, the intention behind the question of, do you condemn what happened on da 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 da, was to start a beef. Like literally, that's what it was. You want me to put myself in a position so you can tap 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 checkmate. Like, but if we go in a game of checkers, I'm just playing chess, bro. Like I'm out here to, in the end, get justice. In the end, get whatever it is I need to get. In the end, to get whatever, like the moral righteousness, whatever it is you think. If you're playing chess consistently and you're going above the checkers, then just check in with your intentions. Check in with your intentions. Check in with what is other people want from you. Whether it's them wanting to bucket you because you hate a man who got killed or whatever, or if it's this, just check in.
Yeah.
Check in.
Is it about control? Like, do you want to have a conversation, or is it about controlling a conversation?
Correct. Yeah. Do you want to bucket me, or do you want to like see where as humans we can discuss a thing and then find some kind of compassion and then like really create the society we want to live in, like really, really social cohesion and impact. Like really, really, what does it look like to foster that? And a lot of the times it will look like difficult conversations. Yeah.
I liked this term, critical support, should be in everyone's lexicon. Yeah, like you can support something and also criticize. To me, criticism is support. Like I don't bother to criticize, like with Charlie Kirk. I don't bother to criticize people I don't agree with. I'm not going to sit here and prepare like a 20-minute lecture on like, here's why I disagree with all these points, like you were saying. And some people really enjoy to hear that, but I'm like, I criticize most closely the things that I really believe in and am aligned with, because it seems like that's a good use, the better use of my time.
Yeah, let's get this right, kind of thing. Yeah. If we're gonna do it, let's get it right. And I want to be the side that gets it right. Yeah. To help.
I mean, I suppose I did
I think that's nice.
Criticizing Zionism, but that's not exactly true.
You did do that.
Yeah. But but you know what it is? It's, you know what that book really is though? It's criticizing like Jews who I love and I care for. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? Like if I didn't care about your souls, I wouldn't have written a book about like our entire culture has been co-opted into becoming genocidal. Let's stop that. You know, like in a way it is something I deeply care about. It's like my family. I'm like criticizing my family. Like we shouldn't be doing this, guys.
That must be so complicated for you to have to explain it in that way. I don't know if I've ever asked you like what like how is it being in that conversation? Because you know how you said, like, I think you articulated it really beautifully when you said he wants to argue with the guy, but you said they will be speaking different languages and the people who are on his side will be hearing a different reality. Did you articulate it that beautifully and simply because that's what you've heard before? Like, what has been your experience? Because I
think that's what happens. Like anytime I see these, you know, like these debates that Charlie Kirk would have, where he would bring on, and often these were kids that were a lot younger than him, and his whole thing was like, I'm going to debate leftists and liberals, but he would game it so he's debating someone who does not, you know, they're college kids, they don't have a fully formed prefrontal cortex. He's not debating me, you know. But Mehdi does this too. He's a debater. He goes and he debates right-wing people. But if you look at like media coverage, anytime I've seen like media coverage of these types of debates, the right-wing media coverage will say, or just think about like the debates between like Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Go look at how CNN and Fox News would report on it. Fox News would say, Trump demolishes Biden. And then like MSNBC would be like, Biden eviscerates Trump. And it's like, you can spin it and your followers are hearing the message. You know, the people that supported Biden saw Trump rambling and ranting and being racist and awful and thinking, how could anyone, you know, connect with that? But Trump's followers listen to Trump talking and hear the things they like to hear, you know, and they think he's funny and they think he's down to earth and he's speaking their language and he is dunking on Biden and they're totally responding to that. So the two audiences are having two totally different experiences because literally like the language that they value is that binary. The binary has become so strong that the language that one values and thinks is successful and persuasive is the language that the other group finds absolutely abhorrent and vile and distasteful. So that's what would happen if Mehdi Hasan debated Benjamin Netanyahu. Everyone who already supports Mehdi would think that he did a wonderful job and Netanyahu exposed himself as the world's most gruesome demon, you know, which I think he is already. But Netanyahu's people would watch that exact same interview and think that Mehdi is a total anti-Semite, and that Netanyahu was so, you know, composed and righteous in his defense of Israel. So that's why I don't debate.
You know how you said like when you wrote that book, you're kind of you're doing almost like a critique of your family, or it's like you're writing it because you care about the souls of your family. I think that's what you said. When you like now is several years through and la da da da. Have you noticed any changes?
Yes.
How people
This isn't to say that communication is impossible, but through those kinds of staged debates, I don't think that's effective. So a major change has happened. I don't know if I've told you this. So when I wrote the book, my mom hadn't spoken to me in 4 years. Wow. I'm helping her buy a house in Houston tomorrow. She got back in touch with me in January, and we've been talking since January because she saw some of my videos, and then she read my book this all happened after it went to press. And we've had some really difficult conversations, but she's come a long way, and we've had some productive conversations. But so I think the best way, and she's come along to a point now where she said, like, I think what's happening to the Palestinian people is horrible and unbearable. But she's like, I still support Israel. So she's not like all the way. Okay.
But it is probably like decades of brainwashing that you're undoing. So
it is. And huge. Yes. And so we've had, and she's the most extreme example. I've also had cousins who like went on Birthright and stuff, reach out to me and be like they didn't talk to me for like a year, but then like later they reached out and they were like, I read your book and I liked it. I was like, okay, you know, but things never got as intense with them as they were with my mom. I mean, they never, you know, so we weren't as close.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think to really change people's mind, I mean, a personal relationship really helps. Like if you want to get somebody out of a cult, like your closest living relative is going to be, you know what I mean? It's a cult. So having a personal relationship really helps. Like we love each other and we have that foundation of love, which allows us to have something in common to bridge the propaganda gap, because we do live in like completely different informational realities. Words don't mean the same thing to each of us. What I found is really effective is like keeping things very personal. Like she used the word illegals in my presence at one point to just, you know, to talk about immigrants. And I was like, Mom, here's why that word is really hard for me to hear from you. And I told her a story that was very personal about one of my friends who's undocumented here and just like went through a hell of a time and was like terrified. And like, I'm not going to retell the story here, but I like just told a very personal story about a friend of mine who's undocumented and why like that word illegals feels like so awful. And she stopped saying it after that, you know, because it was like personal. It's not like abstract and political. When you make it about real people and people that you know, and like before that, she doesn't know any documented people. She's never had an undocumented friend, like, but she knows me and cares about me. And so by extension, if one of my best friends is in trouble and it's making me sad, well, she knows how to care about me. Now she knows how to care about someone who's undocumented when I tell her this story. You know what I mean? So I think keeping it very personal has been helpful, and asking questions rather than being like, you're wrong. So that's the problem. When you tell someone like you're wrong, then their defenses just go up and they shut down. And that's what a debate is, just yelling at each other about why you're wrong. But instead, I try to ask questions and be like, how do you know that? Where did you see that? Like, what makes you think that? You know, and just kind of getting to the source of her information and where it's coming from and the assumptions that she's making. And you kind of help people think critically. I mean, this is what you know. This is what you do.
Yeah. I think, but it's because this situation is so specific in that we are dealing with like a mass brainwash, where it's such a reframing of morality.
Yeah,
like I've watched interviews where a recent one that's gone semi-viral with that lady who's a little bit elderly, and then they go, do you agree with what's happening? And then she's like, yeah, whatever, it's collateral damage. And then they're like, but there's babies dying. And she goes, yeah, but they grew up to be Arabs. And then she catches herself, and then she goes, oh, is this recorded? Oh God. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand because I believe in her heart of hearts, if you were to ask her, she would say she's a good person.
Oh yeah.
So this is what I'm interested in as someone like, and so I think why your position is so poignant is because you have gone beyond the humanizing of the like, you know, these people who believe that they are good people, and you go, there is good in these people, but there's been an, I don't know if it's like and then you have to kind of go, at what point is it brainwashing? At what point are they actively selecting this? At what point are they da-da-da? Does that make sense? So there's a lot of this like strange gray area that as someone who's
to just be able to live in this world, I just think it's all out of our control. I think it's all brainwashing. It's all the environment you're living in. Like the idea that you choose, I did a video on this recently. Do we get to choose what we believe? I don't think we do. Because even in cases where there's like one person in a family where it's like my whole family, I was raised so Zionist, but like I chose to get out. Well, there's something about you, just the way you were born, that makes you a bit of a rebel. And your siblings didn't have that, you know? But that's how they were born. So it's like, my focus is, I don't think it's helpful to like, I don't know, judge people's souls. I think of everyone in Israel, I have to think of them all as just brainwashed. There's so much money brainwashing them, even billionaires, because they're all surrounded. As soon as you get rich, I think what happens is you get surrounded by other rich people and you get infected with their brain worms. You know, all of a sudden, everyone around you, because being rich creates a lot of problem. Having from what I hear, I wouldn't know from personal experience. But from what I hear, getting a ton of money is often like a horrible, debilitating thing for people. Like people who win the lottery a lot of times will say that like it was like the worst thing that ever happened to them. So it creates a lot of problems. You have to like do something with all this money. Everyone in your life suddenly wants the money. You know, everyone's suddenly coming to you for things. And so you develop, and so then you look to other rich people for like, how do I navigate this like massive change in my life circumstances? And you start to adopt these values, and they get more and more and more twisted the higher up, the more money you get, I think. And like billionaires are like,
at what point do you then go like, yeah, that was your bad?
I mean, I think that people, it's like your bad, but like, I just think, how do we, whatever's happening in their soul, I can't control, but like we can change the environment around them. We can change the inputs around them. We can change what is happening in the media environment, just like by me putting out whatever, my TikToks or whatever. And like,
okay. Yeah. Maybe they all achieve that level of like
I'd be too angry otherwise.
Yeah. It's all consuming.
Israel, I mean, in terms of Israel though, like, yeah, like just the amounts of, I don't know any Israelis personally, well, besides some anti-Zionist ones that I've like connected with. My family, we don't have like a Israeli branch of my family. We have some who like went on birthright and they like Israel and they're invested in Israel, but like not, I don't have like an Israeli cousin. So I don't know them too well. But I mean, it's just like an intense cult. But I would also say this: are those people that different? I don't think there's that much distance between that woman who was like, yeah, but they grew up to be Arabs, and like the nice liberal white Democrat lady in the United States who's like cheering when her local cops go and beat up a homeless encampment and like steal all their stuff and throw them in jail. Like there's so much dehumanization of our fellow human beings in what is considered nice, liberal US culture. And also the like tens of thousands of people in my comments during the election who were mad at me for saying I wasn't going to vote for Kamala Harris, saying, I don't care about Palestinian kids. I just care about people in the US. It's not that different. They're not actively cheering for their deaths, but they were voting for their deaths.
Yeah.
It's like they don't care. They don't care about Arab kids in the US. Most white people in the US don't give a shit about Arab kids either. We're not that far. We're not that different.
Yeah, I mean, someone's benefiting off of the dehumanization. That's why it costs lots of money to do it, and it was really effective. And it's really effective to do brainwashing on all Israelis. It's really effective, so that's why they spend loads of money on it. It's really effective to divide and conquer, so they spend loads of money on it. It's really effective to make people believe that this is the most divisive man and you should hate everyone who disagrees with you. That's really effective, so they spend loads of money on it. That's why we're here. They will sell you the apocalypse. They will advertise it to you, and it will look nice, and it'll look sparkly, and it'll look really good, and you'll believe you're doing good the entire way. And I think that's the parentheses of advertising the apocalypse, is like all of us are going to believe that, like, no, I was with the goodies. And that's part of the genius of advertising it to you and making us all walk there like cheerily, because we'll all believe that we were doing good unless we catch out the craziness that is brainwashing us in words, which is insane. And so therefore we have to be really brave, just like Sim standing up to her mum and being okay with, which I think is really brave. Like, if you don't mind me saying, I genuinely think that's really brave, because this is the lady who raised you just being like, I'm not going to talk to you, and you go, no, justice for now is more important than this. That's genuinely a very brave, yes, rebellious, but a very brave thing to do. Like, genuinely, that's really impressive. And specifically because you believed you were on the side of justice. And of course, I'm one of the people who agrees with you on this matter. So obviously I would say that, but I do think that is very brave. And I hope that other people are just as brave, because I say this as someone who speaks to people and they're like, yeah, but if I am pro-Palestine, that'll piss off my neighbor. And so when I speak to you and you're like, no, I pissed off my mum actively for 4 years, not a neighbor, the lady who raised me. Does that make sense? So I'm like, bloody hell, there's levels to this.
Every time I get comments being like, I really want to speak out at work, but I'm worried that my Jewish coworker, things will be awkward with her. And
that's what I mean.
Exactly. And I get those messages all the time, and I'm like, it may make things awkward with your coworker.
And this is the thing you want to say to people, and then you go like, and I could talk about this for years and years and years and years, but like recently someone who works in media was like, yeah, in a time where people, also you have to know, like, I didn't see it like this, but she was like summarizing my actions. She was like, in a time where people are afraid to something, and they're being more like sensitive to the client's wishes or something like that. Saffana just did this. I was just like, did I? Like, who cares about client? Babies are dying. Like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't even realize that's what you were concerned about. But to then sit here with you is very, very humbling, because you've gone, not only am I going to go against a client, take your money, keep it. But like, I honestly can only applaud you. I genuinely
realize it though, because going against the client is terrifying also, because our
not to me, baby.
Our survival.
You take on the moms, I'll take on the clients. I'll beat clients all day.
But in capitalism, our survival is literally tied to like making ourselves marketable, right? So,
but take it, keep it. Also, I'd you know what? You beat the mums, I beat the clients. If anyone's got a client they need beating, call me. If you got mums, call Sim. I think that's a harder battle. I really do.
Well, I applaud you. You know, and actually, what I want to say is, it's actually harder. It's harder to have those conversations, to like have a relationship again than it was when we didn't have a relationship, in a way, you know, harder emotionally. Like, I am so glad to be talking to my mom again. Like, I've been like loving reconnecting with her, and like her grandkids, getting to know her and everything. But like, having these conversations across a propaganda divide is emotionally exhausting. And a lot of people of my generation are cutting off their parents because they're across a propaganda divide. And I understand cutting off your parents if they have abused you, if they are actively a danger to you, if there's, you know, certain personality disorders make it completely impossible to communicate. little personality disorder, though, you might still be able to talk. It's just difficult. But try. I would say yes, it's exhausting, but like I do want to encourage people in my generation to try, because the older generation lives in a different reality.
I agree.
And they need our help. They need our help navigating technology. They need our help understanding this chaotic media environment. They need our help connecting with the sources outside of traditional media that are more reliable. So I want to thank, we should probably wrap it up there, because you just gave an amazing.
Yeah. And also, I would just say really quickly, like, yes, they need us, but we need them.
Oh, yes,
like,
exactly.
So
my mom.
They have wisdom. And my mom says this to me sometimes, because sometimes I don't humble myself as much as I should. And one day my mom said to me, and my mom was really nice, just FYI. She said, she said something along the lines of, I don't believe that you put enough respect on wisdom. And I was like, you're probably right, Roger. Like,
that's probably like right for a lot of young people.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so we need them
when we're there, when we're the nation.
Yeah, we need them. We need them. Put some respect on wisdom. Anyways, let's wrap it up. You're right.
I want to thank everybody in the chat. We had some really lovely comments. A lot of great ones. I liked this a lot. Never judge souls above our pay grade. We can judge attitudes and actions. Good words, good closing thoughts. Thank you, everybody who is in the chat participating, and everyone who's watching this later. Thank you, Saffana, for a great talk.
Thanks, gang. Question everything. Question all the words. Question all the feels that you're made to feel, and you'll be all right.
Yes. See you next month. Bye.
Bye, friends. Oh, bye, friends.